There are some midrashim that after the flood, Noah was somewhat shocked, and that's why one of the first things the Torah describes is how he drank the wine. Why would he be busy with wine? Our sages criticize him that he started working on the wine, but apparently this was a kind of reaction after the shock of what he saw. It's not really the same when he was isolated from the world and busy feeding the animals, and it wasn't really so much. He didn't really have that much time to think about what's happening. But when he saw the horrible tragedy, even though the people were wicked, but still, when you see this, it's completely different. There are people today, for instance, who tell about what they saw in these places of the massacre that happened 2 years ago in Israel. That some of the Zaka volunteers, the people who deal with the burial, I mean, what they saw was absolutely unbelievable. Hundreds of dead, blood everywhere. I mean, these are the types of things that a certain human reaction is absolutely horrid to this. We're just not prepared for this type of stuff. People who survived the Holocaust, some of the things they saw. I mean, Noah, of course, didn't necessarily see corpses all over. They were probably washed and dissolved or whatever. But still, this desolation. That can you imagine walking in a place and saying, "Well, this is where these buildings stood, and this is where the people were, and this is where it seemed right there was life, and now it's all desolate." So the reaction was that he basically started drinking. Whatever the case may be, I think one of the lessons for us to learn is that we have to appreciate what we've got and the situation we're in, because it's only when people lose things they can appreciate what they had. Really, there are a lot of things in life that everybody has, but they just never appreciate it. One example is health. While people are healthy, they think they take it for granted. They never really appreciate it. The Musa masters, the masters of our moral lessons, they usually emphasize these types of things that we have to appreciate. If you have a healthy body, this is better than being a millionaire. A lot of millionaires who have, let's say, bad heart or kidneys or other organs, they would give up everything not to have to go through dialysis, for instance. They'd give up all their money. Right? You can't buy a kidney. You could stand in line at least it's illegal to buy a kidney. In some countries, there are probably ways to get it on the black market. Anyway, the point is that people are willing to give a lot. They would certainly give up their richness in order to have healthy kidneys, right? But a lot of us, most of us, have healthy kidneys and we never appreciate it. Until Chas v'Shalom something happens, people don't appreciate it. And the same is true about everything. The truth is that I think that Rav Avigdor Miller is right, that the most basic things that people should be happy about are available to everyone. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to travel somewhere. There are just certain things that everyone could enjoy and appreciate, and we just don't. We're just not accustomed to. And by the way, this applies to myself as well. It's not that I'm telling you, I'm giving you a good piece of advice. I should give myself a good piece of advice. To appreciate it, sometimes maybe just writing down things, that these are just great things. For example, a lot of people travel to Niagara Falls or to Grand Canyon. Certainly very beautiful places. There is even a discussion if maybe a certain brocha should be made, if according to Jewish law, one make a brocha that Hashem makes Bereshit, what they call it, right? There are certain things on which our sages instituted this blessing on great seas and rivers and mountains. But the question is, do we say that brocha on Niagara Falls, for instance, or on Grand Canyon? So the point is that it's not something that everybody could afford. I've never been to either of these places, but there is something that all of us could afford at any time, every day, and we don't really appreciate it. And what is it? What can you see that's really beautiful and much more impressive than Niagara Falls, but we're just accustomed to it and we never really look? The sky. How about the sky? Looking at the sky, especially at various times, you could see so many different beautiful pictures and just really enjoy it. It's such a feeling of awe, right? Such a feeling of, wow, this is like, you look at the sky during the night, you see all these stars, myriads of stars, there's like so many and they're so far away, and we see the light that have been traveling for years and years to us, sometimes hundreds, thousands, whatever. We see the whole galaxies, right? The Milky Way, whatever. This is just unbelievable. This is so beautiful. And by the way, the prophets talk about it. Suma rom einechem v'raum mi bara ele. Prophet Ishayahu, right? Isaiah says, Look at the sky, see who created these. These are beautiful things. And then during the daytime, it's such a beautiful and mild color, this unbelievable color of the sky, and it's different all the time. And then when you see the sundown, when you see the sunrise, all these things, they're really beautiful. They're not less impressive than Niagara Falls. But you don't have to travel anywhere, and every poor person can afford it as much as he or she wants. We could enjoy it as much as we want. The color of the sky, the beauty of the sky. And there are hundreds of things like that. Like if you live I live in New York. New York is not considered the most city with the most clean air. But compared to where I was born in Leningrad, what's now St. Petersburg, we had a factory right in front of our windows. And there was constant smoke, right, going, and there was actual dirt on top of the window all the time. We had to clean it. It was terrible, terrible air. And then there were all these chemical plants that used to release stuff into the air and radiation and everything else. Because in Russia, in Soviet Union, they did not care about the environment at all. People often, in America, they complain, the New York air. Okay, New York air is not the same as being in the Catskills in the mountains, but it's good air. It's basically good air, and it's basically reasonably good water, especially if you install a filter. I have a filter installed for my water. We have good water, good air. A lot of places in the world, 90% of the people living in the world, in places like India or Africa or whatever, they don't have access to any of this stuff. Their air is terrible, their water is terrible. So why don't we appreciate the stuff we've got? Even a poor person in America can afford a lot of different things, a lot of conveniences. Running water, all these things that we have. This is beautiful, this is wonderful, this is fantastic. We should appreciate it. So Noah, I guess, after the flood, by the way, during the flood, there was like rain and the skies weren't visible, right? It's after the flood that the Torah says that now day and night will not pass, meaning until then what? There was no day and night, but there was no visibility. It was always like this depressing, atmosphere of constant semi-darkness or whatever it was, right? So for Noah to have after this year, you could see in the sky, you could see things, but unfortunately the people are gone, and that was very depressing for him. But when all of these things were there, right, we should appreciate our friends, we should appreciate people around us, we should appreciate the fact that these people work to make some money, and we're able to get stuff really easily. This is something that people don't appreciate often. It's easier to appreciate the nature. We say, okay, Hashem created the world, it's such a beautiful thing, the sky, the stars, but what about appreciating other people? Even if they don't do it for altruistic reasons, right? I go to the store, takes me 5 minutes, there's a store nearby, and I get myself vegetables, nice, good vegetables at a very reasonable price. I don't have to work a lot to get myself a tomato or other beautiful, wonderful vegetables. People didn't have tomatoes until America was discovered. I mean, people in Europe and in Asia, right? The tomatoes came from America, and tomatoes are very good for you, and they're healthy, and they're tasty, and they're very, very cheap, relatively speaking. In old times, people had to work a lot more to get the food. Most people were farmers, and mostly people worked for food. And today, all these people, because there are all these people, there's something to appreciate. Yavetz talks about it. That all these people, the cashier that stands there all day and selling stuff, and the relatively little salary these people get, and they're working to get their salary, and we're the ones who are enjoying the fruits of their labor. All these things that are available at a very reasonable and cheap price. All the infrastructure that we have, especially in big cities, there's so much to appreciate. The garbage collectors, such a fantastic thing that they collect our garbage. There are some states in America where you have to throw out your own garbage, and you have to drive to a place where the garbage location is. I heard that that's true in certain states. Here in New York, Baruch Hashem, they pick up our garbage twice a week. They pick up our garbage, so it doesn't become too dirty, too smelly. We have these bags in which the garbage is, so it's not really that smelly. In Russia, for instance, the garbage smelled a lot worse than here because there were no cheap and available plastic bags that seal it, and everything was much worse. Where the garbage was, it smelled terribly. Until recently, in most societies, there was sewers right on the streets, flowing on the streets. It was definitely very, very smelly and disgusting. So there's a lot to appreciate, a lot of things to appreciate, both the things that are clearly acts of Hashem, like stars and sky, and things that the society does. It's also something to appreciate. There's a story in the Talmud about one of the sages that said that why is there a special blessing for seeing a huge number of people, 600,000 people? Because it's a certain appreciation in a sense. So many people, all these people serve you in a sense. Every one of us gets benefits from all kinds of other people. The postman, the garbage collector, the people who fix our sewers, the plumbers, everybody. And all of them, even though they take money and they do it for their own reasons, but we get all the benefits. Imagine that we have to do everything on our own. There are certain faraway places, villages, whatever, that don't have a lot of workers, and everybody has to do everything on their own. And since they were not professionals, so it's a lot more difficult. But here we hire people for a reasonable price, and they do things for us. And especially the distribution in big cities, it's fantastic. It's so much to appreciate that we could easily get all that stuff. It's not always available, not available for everyone. And certainly one thing that the Jewish people, especially in Israel, can now learn to appreciate is peace. I hope that it will be real peace and that Hamas will disarm and there will be no need to restart the war. Right? The true peace is what we always pray for. The sages say that all the blessings end with peace. Beginning is with peace and end with peace. Shalom Aleichem, right, is how we greet people, and Shalom is how we say goodbye, and Shalom is what the Shemona Esrei ends with. This is the greatest bracha. If there's no peace, there's nothing. So for many years, the Jews in Israel lived with, of course, there was never full peace, but with a certain sense of security. And then all of a sudden, in one day, it was all gone. It turned out that they're totally vulnerable. They could all be killed. I mean, there were over 1,000 people killed, but there could have been tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people killed. Because of the heroism and certain other conditions that the terrorists were not able to get to, let's say, larger cities. They were not able to destroy, for instance, Ashkelon. Otherwise, there would be hundreds of thousands of people dead. But they were stopped, and people say about the failure of what happened on that day, on they call it Black Shabbat. All kinds of names are given. 7th of October, Black Shabbos. It was on Simchat Torah that fell on Shabbat that it happened slightly more than 2 years ago. So on that day, the people talk about the failure. But remember that besides the failure, there were a lot of acts of heroism that actually stopped the enemy before they were able to kill hundreds of thousands of people. On the sea in particular, the soldiers there, they were able to stop the Hamas terrorists that were trying to get to Ashkelon. So the point is that we learned basically the hard way how vulnerable we are. I mean, we should have known, but people mostly didn't realize. Now, hopefully, people can appreciate better what it means when there is peace, and how much we have to be always thankful when there is peace, and how much we have to be prepared in case another war starts. Now, in America, we have a much greater false sense of security, even though, again, September 11th, some 20-something years ago, I was already living in New York for many years when this happened. I was one of the many of hundreds of thousands of people running. I was running through the tunnel, what's called Battery Tunnel, that connects Brooklyn to Manhattan. And when the smoke started coming in, I didn't even know what was happening above, but we were stuck in a bus in Battery Tunnel when this happened. And we were running back. And then we found out about the terrorist attack, about the thousands of people dead. So the point is that this sense of security no longer exists in America either, even though people generally in America feel much more secure. Maybe it's false sense of security. I hope it's not false sense of security, but we have to be prepared and we have to appreciate what we've got. We definitely should have what to appreciate. And this is my main message. We should always be thankful for little things. And which is, by the way, the main theme of the holiday of Sukkot, as I mentioned. The holiday of Sukkot just passed simple pleasures. Simple pleasures are the best. And in that, we're all equal. Everybody could see the sky, everybody could drink the water and enjoy it and say, Baruch Ata Hashem, Shakol Niyeh B'Dvaro. Such a wonderful thing, we have clean water. Or seltzer, which is relatively cheap. Seltzer, triple filtered water with seltzer, and it's like, say, beautiful. I don't know, probably the water itself is actually healthier than seltzer, but seltzer is also not bad. It's a relatively healthy drink, and it's enjoyable, and we should appreciate it. We should appreciate the little things that we've got. That's my main point. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.